Third reading.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Craig Foss.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Trade Safeguard Measures Bill be now read for a third time. The Trade Safeguard Measures Bill proposes 4 major changes to New Zealand's safeguard regime. These changes relate to the body responsible for undertaking of safeguard investigations, the time frame for completing such investigations, the imposition of a provisional and final safeguard duty, and the introduction of guidelines for determining whether safeguard action is in the public interest. These changes will be implemented by repealing the Temporary Safeguard Authorities Act 1987 and replacing it with a new act that provides for a new safeguards regime which is consistent with World Trade Organization rules and which promotes efficient, transparent and objective investigative and decision-making processes. Mr Speaker, industry in New Zealand is subject to increasing competition from imports through unilateral tariff reductions, the last of which were made in July 2009, and through continuing tariff reductions under free trade agreements. If the WTO Doha round of negotiations is finally successfully completed, then further tariff reductions may be required. This bill will ensure that New Zealand is well placed to respond to any surges of imported goods by providing any necessary temporary protection to a domestic industry to allow time for it to adjust to increased competition from imported goods in order to promote longer-term efficiency and competitiveness. 4 safeguard inquiries have been carried out since 1987, and only in 1 case was a safeguard measure imposed. However, as a small open economy, safeguard measures are highly relevant to all New Zealand industries in the tradable goods sector. The bill proposes that safeguard investigations will be carried out by the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment rather than by persons appointed as temporary safeguard authorities. This will align the conduct of safeguard investigations with other trade remedy investigations which are carried out by the Ministry and will allow the expertise of the Ministry to be fully utilised in undertaking safeguard investigations and ensure a more efficient use of resources. The bill also proposes that the time frame to complete an investigation will be extended from the present 30 working days to 75 working days or 85 working days if provisional duties are requested. The extension of the time frame will allow sufficient time to undertake a high-quality investigation and reduce the risk of any safeguard measure taken by New Zealand being overturned through the WTO dispute settlement process. To allow swift action to be taken to provide protection to a domestic industry while an investigation has been completed and to ensure an industry is not disadvantaged by the extension of the investigation timeframe, the bill proposes that the Minister of Commerce be authorised to impose a provisional safeguard duty in order to provide protection to a domestic industry while an investigation is being completed. The bill also proposes that the Minister of Commerce be authorised to impose a final safeguard duty to allow a quick and efficient means for taking safeguard action. Lastly, the bill proposes the introduction of guidelines for determining whether the imposition of a safeguard measure is in the public interest to increase the certainty and transparency around the processes of considering public interest issues. Providing protection to the New Zealand manufacturers from offshore competition does not always find favour with economic purists who insist that open competition is always the best option. I believe, however, that New Zealand should have available to it a tool that is permitted under the WTO rules to allow what is only a temporary protection to an industry that is facing a sudden increase in import competition, for the express purpose of providing time to adjust to that competition where the facts show that it would be sensible to take this course of action. To conclude, Mr Speaker, the Trade Safeguard Measures Bill aims to provide for a more efficient process for taking safeguard action where that is necessary to allow time for structural adjustment by New Zealand manufacturers to sudden increases in competition from imported goods, while ensuring that public interest considerations are properly taken into account before this type of action is taken. This is an important safety mechanism in an environment where the remaining tariffs are low and are being reduced further through free trade agreements, a process which is likely to accelerate over the next few years as further free trade agreements are concluded. I would like to thank the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Select Committee for their valuable contribution to the development of this bill. In addition, I would like to thank officials for all their work that has gone through and has gone into the drafting of this legislation to bring it to this point. Mr. Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. The Honourable
Mr. Speaker, Labor supports this bill, but I've got to say that ministerial explanation and